We'll get started. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have anyone online? Okay, so Paul, for your benefit, I will open up the conversation periodically throughout the conversation we have this morning for any input that you might have. Do you have anything you want to say now?
Well, thanks for having me, Sarah. I guess at the last meeting in July, Dave Billatier attended. He's the owner of the property. They asked us to be their developer from DeMarco Group, Paul Palucci. I think I know most of you. And Sarah suggested I come in and just talk a little bit about the project and some of the stuff that we see that's challenging in the code for that specific property. I think maybe you saw the project in the sketch plan. Sarah, I don't know if that was shared with
No,
this
we
group.
didn't.
No, he didn't really have a chance to talk about it last time, which is why we reinvited you to come this time. But
Yeah.
describe it a little bit.
And-
And
I didn't bring a copy of the plan, but I know you have it. I emailed it to you, and maybe at some point we can pull it up. But essentially, the Billatiers have owned that land for 30+ years. And they have interest in doing what we would call like a flex light industrious development. Approximately 100,000 square feet, it's 14 acres. And when I initially was contacted by them, I had not realized the zoning changed. That was really kind of light industrial prior. And then the form-based code obviously was adopted, and that land that they own is in that uptown area. So when I started laying things out, you look at the frontage requirements, and really the gist of it was a walkable type community, mixed use, and I just don't see that being successful there, quite honestly. With our experience as developers, that specific area, Summers Drive and Airport Road, is just not going to attract retail. No tenants are going to feel comfortable investing off of the 332 right away. That's just a fact. So when I started laying it out, I think that two things. One, I'm not concerned with the parking requirements. I'm not concerned with the lot coverage. Those are all easily addressed. If parking and access to the front of these buildings is prohibited, where we need to put buildings right up to the right of way, it makes it difficult to separate the general public who may be coming to these spaces. And they're envisioning car detail shops, maybe a small contractor, a millwork shop, right? Just a place where someone has the flexibility to rent 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 square feet, and the activities in the back, and the general public and administrations in the front. So when you look at putting these buildings right up with the street, it makes it challenging and somewhat unsafe to invite general public in when you've got potentially loading and service type activities in the rear. If we could get some relief and be able to push those buildings back away from the right of way and get some parking in the front, so administration and office staff and general public can access the front. And then you've got loading, and typically these flex buildings, I don't know if anyone's familiar, there's several around. You have overhead doors, and typically we're demising them and giving these tenants a bathroom, shop space, and then an office space in the front. The other thing that's a little bit challenging are the building materials. When you look at cost of delivery and what you're going to get for rent, typically these flex uses are pre-engineered metal buildings. You can dress them up a little bit. But when I look at the uptown code and the building material requirements, we're going to be needing to invest a lot more in these buildings, where I don't think the developer, the owner of this, is going to be able to get the rent that they need to pay down the debt service and be able to make these successful. So those are the challenging things that we are hoping to have a discussion with you and see what kind of flexibility or what considerations you're making for changes to this.
It's good to hear from you. being in that end of the business, kind of echoes, I think, what we've been talking about, but, you're gonna see that we're gonna modify a lot of those things, I think, through this process, and, you have something you might say, sir?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when he and Dave came and met with me and looked at the plans they had a couple different versions, and I mentioned some of the discussions we were having in here and some of the ideas we had come up with so far. And it seemed like the plans could easily, I mean, they almost met code as it was. I mean, they worked pretty hard to try and bring it into compliance with form-based code, but with some of the changes this group has been talking about doing, it seems like it worked really well.
Mhm. Okay,
How far are you talking about pushing back? I mean, how much, from,
Off the right of way?
yes, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, if you take the right of way and you say, all right, if we can give a 20-foot green space to then a 60-foot bay of parking. And then 10 foot to the building, right? So what's that, 70, 90 feet?
yeah,
That would allow you to have double row parking, drive aisle, building face, and then put the service and
Right.
all of the loading, et cetera, in the rear. And versus, I think the build to zone is 30 feet right now, maximum, right?
Yeah, there's the range where you can't go beyond it. And this group had discussed removing the maximum setback, so there's only, you can go as close as, I don't have it to that page, and I think it was 5, removing the maximum, so there is no more build to zone, or would be no more build to zone with what you guys have proposed so far. And there was a discussion at the last meeting that we talked about this, about allowing a drive lane and a row of parking in front, but keeping large parking lots remaining the same as the existing code to the side or the rear. And I think when I remember the group thought that was a good idea. I think that was your suggestion, allowing the one drive lane and parking up front, which when we were talking, it seemed like that was okay.
Yeah, I think we definitely see opportunity where we could comply with it. On the spatial requirements, the building materials are gonna be really challenging when we look at this type of use. And meeting all the transparency requirements, the building articulation, both horizontal and vertical, and then building materials. For this type of use, the cost of delivery of that is just going to be too great for the rent you're gonna be able to get for these spaces. We're talking, typically single digit rents that these spaces will yield. So with the cost delivery that I'm seeing in the code, they're gonna need to be high teens, 20s to pay down that type of debt service on these types of buildings. So there's a huge disparity.
okay, we'll move on to any other questions? I'm sorry. Okay, everyone get a chance to see the meeting minutes from July 7th?
Yep.
Do I have a motion?
Didn't take long to read.
Well, wait, but the heading is June 2nd, you gotta change it to July 7th.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're gonna go off schedule or off the agenda for a moment. Mike has some information he wants to share.
So I know this group talked about the site design criteria a little bit. Original plan was to send it over to PPW because it doesn't really have a whole lot of changes that are really code-based. It's more administrative process and engineering than anything else. PPW doesn't have a meeting this month, so we want to get it on this August agenda. So bringing it to you today. I'll forward off a copy of it after this meeting. The biggest changes in it are items like the as-built surveys that are required for all new builds. We added some more requirements to that. Height of the structure needs to be shown, finished floor level of all levels. Right now we just show the first finished floor level. Site features, let's see what else. Firm information for floodplain, items like that. Basically.
If you want to get it on the August agenda.
Yep.
and you distribute it to us today, where's the opportunity for us to critique it or provide feedback?
So there's not a whole lot to provide feedback on
Okay,
from that sense. Because we're not really changing any of the major items. It's really just staff input as far as, you know, for instance, yes, well, we've noticed that some more information would be helpful to staff and for future development. The other one is there's a change order process that we put in there. Again, for staff to look at it and say, instead of just emailing the code office and saying, look at it, now it has to go to code office, planning, and highway.
tell me about those change orders.
Yep.
What do you mean?
So change orders as far as site plans, that are minimal.
Changes to the site have to go through the office.
So this is where, in staff's opinion, we do not feel like they're substantial enough to go back to planning board, where we have a process for it. This is creating a process for those minor ones. Examples would be moving a water line 10, 20 feet. It's not a substantial change, it's underground, it's not gonna change anything on the site, but now we have that process built in.
So in other words, issues that someone considers acceptable, right? Would that be the code enforcement officer?
It'd be all three departments. So that's where we've changed up this process to take some of the heavy lifting off the code office,
Yep.
but also get the input of the planning and highway.
Okay, so in other words, if the three department heads are in agreement that it's inconsequential, then it would not need to go back through the whole planning review process.
Because there's 3 department heads, would you say a majority?
So we have it written as all three.
It has to be.
It has to be
unanimous.
all three.
All right.
And we're looking at it from our specific viewpoints, right? Sarah's looking at it from planning and zoning, Jim's looking at it, highway, water, sewer. And then I'm looking at it from all the code.
And this is something we kind of already do. I mean, most of the change order requests do fall in Marketing's department, but we do have conversations, but it's not ever really been laid out as a process in the site design criteria. So just, this would probably be better to have it so written out so people understand.
This is responding to what Greg brought up months back.
It's laying the groundwork for that.
Yeah.
So as you guys know, the town board and others have been investigating removing single family homes from planning board approval. This isn't doing that, but it's putting a lot of that groundwork in there so that should that happen and they want to change a site plan, well, now there's a process for it. So it helps us now, but should that decision be made and we move forward with changing the code to allow that, everything's laid out. It's gonna be a much simpler process for us. Which leads us into the other thing where there's now like single stage subdivisions are removed from PRC requirements. So they don't have to go to PRC unless they meet NRI features. And there's no development proposed. So again, laying a lot of that groundwork out. That's really the only 3 substantive changes within the document. The rest are all engineering as far as materials.
Is it redline, gonna be redlined when you send it to us?
It is not. It's not how MRB sent it over.
Yeah, MRB did this, and it's such a large file. It's actually a link, I believe, right?
Yeah.
That you click on it and they not send it as a red line version.
Can you ask them if they can do that for you?
We won't have that for the August meeting. Just because
Lance is on vacation.
Lance being on vacation and then staff were dealing with a EPA audit right now on our saltwater program, so. Between us and MRB, we're tied up.
Is there, no, I think he did send at some point he sent a summary.
Yep.
Of
Yeah, we have a
changes.
summary.
So we can send, that can send along as well.
That might be helpful.
Yeah, like I said, the rest of it is really, it was all Jim and his crew of this type of material for water lines and pipes and road base, stuff like that. Was all changed.
So as an example,
Yep.
the process that we experienced on the project that I'm working on now, that may have gotten all 3 department heads approval, and then it would eliminate having to go back through that whole review process, which took quite a bit of time. But then as Dave's saying, if somebody is concerned about it, and if one person's concerned, then we go through the process.
Yep.
I think that could save a lot of time for a lot of people. And
The only time that it won't go through all three ahead of time is like an emergency. Like they call me because there's a boulder in the way of a water line and the guys are there.
Yeah.
We're not gonna wait to go through. I'll just say, yeah, go ahead, and then I still have to retroact.
We only need 3 votes. There's 3 of us here. Gary, what do you think about this? I'm for that too.
yeah, that's
So,
great.
yeah. I mean, just reading the particulars and then. Yeah, shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, good. Is that it? Okay, on to form-based code. I have some general comments that I want to review before we get into particulars. Is everyone okay with that? Sure. I guess, did MRB do this for us?
No.
We did this all internally,
No, Bergen, which is now Colliers.
so Bergman helped us with this.
They wrote the original code.
And we paid them an extra fee for doing this?
I mean, we hired them to write the form-based code.
I understand that, but now this revision, did we pay
Oh,
them?
no.
I wrote it up.
Okay,
We're doing the revision internally.
okay, that was my question.
There was a discussion of doing that, but we decided not to.
So a question that I had as I was going through here is there a way for us to make this simpler?
As far as the revision or?
It just seems to me that it reads almost like a book. And, you know, if you want to look for something in particular, it just seems to me that it's kind of hidden within the book. And it appears to be different than other ordinances that we have or.
It is different.
It is different. And so it begs the question, gee, why does it need to be different? Do we think it needs to be different?
Isn't this for like end users?
Yeah, I can't really remember. I mean, as we all know, yes, it's a PDF document that's standalone, that's linked rather than built into our e-code. I don't remember the reason why they decided to do it that way. Like Kim said, they did try and package it so that developers can just take this document away from the rest of the code and read through it, since it is so very isolated from the rest of the code. You know, everything you need form-based code is in this document rather than looking back to other sections. It's all built in. And I do kind of remember that they were like, it's standalone. It's a document they can just look at. They don't have to search through the code. So maybe it's intended to be easier for the developer. I mean, it has headings and sections and you can search the document, it's PDF, you can search and find whatever you need, but yeah, I mean, it's not like what we're used to. Yeah, e-code, that's for sure.
The developer, I can give us input on whether, how,
Did you guys?
I'd like to read it.
My question, how was it, how easy was it?
I can give you my perspective, and we develop all over the country, and specifically, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've worked in the town of Canandaigua, and when I went to look at this piece for Billatier, I had to call Chris Nadler just to get the link to the code, because I couldn't navigate it off your homepage, and I've been on your homepage, been doing stuff for 15, 20 years. So when I got the code, I had to read through it, and then I read through it again, and then I read through it again, and then I read through it again. And it is not consistent with the rest of your districts and your use rates, right? And what the form-based code attempted to do, my purview, is they tried to take architectural and building aesthetics and spatial requirements and put them in one place. And then the uses are, unless it's a prohibited use, which is, that's pretty easy to say, all right, these uses are not allowed. But now any use is allowed so long as you can comply with the spatial requirements and the aesthetic requirements. In theory, that's a good thing. But in practice, given where it is and what the existing corridor is developed like, it's really, you know, when you're looking at a new development for this, the type of use that that land will yield, it's very challenging. And then if I was to look at the front, the 332, we own Admar Supply. The Marco Group owns Admar Supply. So if Joel DeMarco, who runs Admar, came to me and said, hey, we want to do an expansion over a certain percentage, that would be hugely problematic for Admar in their current operations, right? I would have to build an addition out in front, figure out where I'm putting that parking. So I could see the challenges that existing businesses that are operating right along the 332 corridor would have with this code. They're gonna say, I'm not gonna do anything. Or I gotta go in and get so many variances. So the code really isn't accomplishing what it was set out to do. You know, I understand there's some current applications and you guys know better than I do of those existing ones by some of the car dealerships that are looking to expand, and I'm sure they're struggling to comply with this. You know, I think Canada does a nice job, the planning board does a nice job with the architectural review when applicants come in and they look at aesthetics and you get what you want. I don't think there's anything that in the town you could say, geez, I wish we had some kind of hard, rigid architectural guidelines to go by, because it's a give and take with the board and the applicant. But to have these hard set rules of the buildings must look like this, I don't think you're gonna get there with it, to be quite honest. I don't think that you're gonna get there. Maybe in, Sarah was sharing with me on the east side of 332, there may be some projects that are better suited for this and more of a walkable community. I just don't see it over on Airport Road and Summers Drive. Really having that connectivity that this code was envisioned. It's gonna be a vehicular type of businesses that want to locate there. And I guess just to sum it up, it was not the easiest code to digest, and then to lay a plan out and look at how can I make this client that came to us have a chance of monetizing the land that they've owned for 30 years. So it was a little bit of a struggle. And it will be if you guys were not to adopt any changes, they would have to make a hard decision when putting together a performance for them to show what the costs are. If I have to build in these building costs to comply with the code, I can guarantee that they won't be able to develop land for that intended use.
So I understand that, but in summary, what I think I heard you say, that you had to read this so many times in order to comprehend it.
Yeah, and then I had to call some other professionals I work with, like, I know Marathon Engineering's done a bunch of stuff in town. Matt Tomlinson was pretty familiar with the code. He and I batted it back and forth.
You start to look like a bat, that's why.
Yeah, we've
I
done
apologize.
a lot of projects together, and he and I were spitballing on how we could make something happen, and I had a conversation with Chris Nadler, just trying to understand what the gist of it was, the intent. So, yeah, it wasn't, John, to answer your question, it wasn't super
Easy to understand.
easy.
So we created a document, what I'm hearing, to make things easy on the developers, and it has done just the opposite. And I concur with everything Paul is saying, and I've been in the business as long as Paul has, if maybe not even longer, and I don't think it works myself. But that being said, I'd like to hear how everybody else feels about it. And what do? Do we continue to modify this document that we think doesn't work, or do we try to start from scratch, or what do we want to do?
Do we have an example of someone who came in and loved the form-based code? Because I have not heard that yet,
We haven't had a whole lot of people come in.
but maybe that's stopping people
One
from
of the
coming in.
ones who liked it actually did their project for the one-based code was even adopted, and that was the building.
Can't remember the process.
Crossings, where it's, next to town walls.
So that's tall trainer,
Yeah,
Part of that was the lot was so unique.
right?
yeah,
It was a triangle lot, so it just fit itself up, or putting the building up
it
front.
did
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
Yep.
I think it's kind of like what Paul said, like, in theory, I think it really would work. In practice, whether it's because the way it's set up in our code, or rather not in our code, pulled out, makes it hard to follow, makes it hard to understand. Yeah, I think it was intended to be easier, but I agree, it is a little bit hard. I think, people get frustrated because they're looking in our code and it's not there, and then they go to this and then they try and cross-reference it, which just wasn't designed to be cross-referenced at all. It was designed to be standalone. Fixing that part of it, I guess you could incorporate it into E-code, but you'd have to do it in a way that people understand it's still its own separate chapter. That,
Or do we want it to be a separate chapter?
well, then you can't have it. I mean, it contradicts the rest of the code.
Right. That's
Form-based
what I'm
code is
saying.
exactly that, it's
No.
form.
No, I understand that, but we haven't found anybody that finds it easy to use, and we're not getting beaten down by people who want to develop
I think
what we
that's
want
the
to develop.
question, not whether it's easy to use. What do you want the area to look like?
Well, we're never gonna change the area because the car dealers are there and they're not going out of business. So not in our lifetime.
I think your point is spot on. I
The
mean,
bigger question is, you have to decide what you want there because you've erased the previous zoning, and I don't think you want to go back to what you had before. It wasn't, I don't think it's gonna give you what you want either, so you would have to start over completely, and this would be a completely different conversation.
well, part of the challenge there with that, Sarah, is we don't know what was there before. I mean,
Yeah, we
honest, do we?
Absolutely.
How do we
The code
do
we have, the algebraic code that we had applied to the whole town. This was a change from that in that particular area.
Good.
Now this, it is different. I mean, if you read through this, I mean, it reads like a novel in a sense. I mean, there's a lot of prose, a lot of, explanation, not as much of the, setback shall be 10 feet.
Mhm.
The algebraic, the bulk area requirements, it's in there, but it's buried in a lot of prose, a lot of text. But the whole idea was that it was form, it was based on form rather than algebraic numbers. They're based on numbers. And, admittedly, if you had an absolutely flat, nothing there at all, this might work.
And that's what I agree with, but we're never gonna
But
have
that's
that,
not
right?
gonna
That's not
happen.
what's gonna happen, right?
I mean, I think it was expressed at one time when this was being developed, that over time, everything would come into, some kind of form-based, things would have a similar look.
How many hundreds,
Uses,
how many
it would
hundreds
say-
of years would that be?
Right, about 50.
Beyond what I would. But it was, I mean, that was the theory, that was the operating theory, and it was a huge break from conventional,
Euclidean zoning. is
Euclidean
tradition.
zoning, and that's, I have mixed feelings about it myself. The only really substantial development that we've had in that area, Uptown Landing. But in order to get Uptown Landing approved, we had to use incentive zoning. We had to say,
Right.
yeah, sure, this is the underlying.
But we're not gonna use it, right? We're gonna
So,
ignore it.
I mean, it does beg the question of, the hell do we want it? I mean, we did have, I mean, it was, just state zoning code that applies in a AR2 where we live, or RLD where you live, so. I mean, you can make these changes that are, a lot of them are good and it's recommended here, but it's still form-based code in the end. Now, to go back to what we had, I mean, I don't know what the process is. I mean, you'd have to abandon this and just go back to what it was. But did that work? Were there problems using that before we adopted zone-based or form-based code? You weren't here, but Sarah was, so, and you guys were, of course. I don't know that there were problems. I mean, you probably have the same problems you have with building anything else in the town.
But I mean, we hear continuously about the setback and building materials, and when you hear building materials are gonna increase costs tenfold. I mean, who's building,
Nobody,
right?
that's.
Tom, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, the three of us were involved
ordinance. We had more damn meetings.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of emphasis on the mixed use part. Away from the 332 corridor and trying to soften, not having the north end of Canandaigua becoming another West Henrietta Road. Car dealerships.
Which are,
Car dealerships, which are
which is what it
possibly
is.
there forever.
As I said, it was, in one sense, it was kind of a look into the future. That you could get these places to look similar. But I think that's one.
We couldn't get the car dealers to put trees in front of them, or they go through the motions of planting a few bushes and then.
We sell cars and the trees. Yep.
And
Yeah.
they continually park their cars on the lawn that's supposed to be open space, so. Do you want another West Henrietta Road, or do we want a mixed use
And I think
community?
this was a counter to that.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we avoid that in the future? Let's come up with a hard and fast strict code that precludes that and creates a, you know, nicer world. And
But it's
maybe we
created,
went too far.
but it's created no development.
Yeah,
And
it's-
we don't need it because no one's gonna build anything there.
So just to that point, and this is before my time, how much development did you have in the 10 years before this was adopted? Or even proposed development?
You could probably look at the buildings and as you come down.
In this quarter,
And I can tell you, just from looking at, because I wasn't here, you've had substantially more development proposed in this area since this has become adopted than you did previously.
Well, that maybe has to do with this area as well.
Not because of the code necessarily.
But what I'm saying is that you can come into compliance. There are issues. We know that, right?
Yeah.
Vision Hyundai is a good example. They're proposing a new building. They meet everything with exception of two, and it's not even form-based code.
Items, but
It's a stream setback for a stream that really doesn't exist, but it's on the DEC maps. That's a good example. There's a Jim Sputman property next to Five Star. They've come in with proposed, they meet it. Yes, there's issues they want to resolve, but,
they pretty much.
and that's a use that wouldn't be here. I think to your point, Terry, the key point is mixed use, right? There are elemental changes that need to happen. That's a given. I don't know what architect thought that you could do 30% transparency on a commercial structure on the ground floor. That's absurd. Can't happen. And then you get, what is it, 20% on the second floor of the
Yeah.
residential? Come on. But
that's gotta change.
there's items in here that are still good. And I think the freedom of the zoning district to allow people to come in and say, I wanna do whatever I want, with very few exceptions, is a very big positive as opposed to the Euclidean zoning that's like, no, you're only doing A, B, C.
Well, that was the major thrust, was mixed use.
And
And
another thing,
Yeah,
too,
we
like
do it.
some of the, pretty much all of our zoning districts until form-based code, you have one main use. Form-based code, you could have 5.
Yeah.
You can have residential, you can have retail, you can have warehouse space. The
Well, yeah.
zoning district doesn't care.
You have
I
to
think
find a way to accommodate
And there's not
that.
been a whole lot of takers on it yet, except for
Yeah.
Uptown, but I think
And-
to lose that before you've even tried it would be tough.
And Uptown did propose meeting it. If you guys remember from the start of their incentive zoning, they had a plan that met everything. And they just said, this is just looks like a prison complex. We want to do single
So
family
with all due
homes.
respect, they designed it to look terrible on purpose, so that.
100%.
Yeah.
And the biggest push was they wanted to do the single family homes, which the boards that adopted this didn't want in that area. So that was really the main cause. When you're doing 400 single family homes and each one needs 6 variances, that adds up. So they decided to go for IZ. That was the main push.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have had to if it had been Euclidean code necessarily.
No, they probably would have, because
Well-
you wouldn't, but with Euclidean code, you're not gonna have single family right next to commercial.
Well, no, it depends on, well, no,
You wouldn't be able to have
But-
apartments above retail.
But why is it either or? I mean, why can't we develop a code that allows for what we want without?
well,
You can take this. and
I
make
think that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. We're
That you propose
Massaging
and
this.
get a code that's more in line with what you want without completely throwing it out. Keep the parts that you like, keep the freedoms that it gives developers that you like about it. But make it easier on the parts you don't like, change the material, you've already proposed making the setbacks completely flexible.
Yeah.
I think you can keep moving with what you've started now, the process of changing it. Take out what you don't like, keep what you do like, and see what happens. I think, I mean, yeah, you could just throw it out and completely rezone it back to what it was before, but I'm not sure, I'm not sure that's what you want. What Mike said, I think, and what you said, Dave, I think you can do that. I mean, I think you can make a combination.
But how do we make it easier for people to know what's going on without, making 15 phone calls to who's done this and
I
who's
get
done what?
15 phone calls in the RLD or in the R130. That's never gonna stop.
No, I'm saying from a developer standpoint.
I'm telling you,
You get
that's exactly what already happens. Now, to Paul's point, yes, I mean, maybe we can figure out a way to reincorporate this using E-code. It's where people are used to looking. I don't see why we couldn't do that. But you're not gonna eliminate questions on how.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that we are, but we have to make it easier to use. I mean, we've heard that from everybody who's.
So it'd probably be best to go through the changes, and then once we get through satisfied, then we talk about how do we now present it into maybe a different format.
Yeah, can this be incorporated into our regular code in text form we're all used to seeing? With maybe perhaps some standalone document that still has some of the imagery and the examples with the text itself. I mean, I'm sure there's a way.
And from your experience, John, Paul or DeMarco came in and said, we'd like a zoning variance because, and come up with the reasons why he wants a variance, and if it makes sense on Airport Road or Summers Road or whatever the hell it is, that's an avenue to accommodate something that they sent to the zoning board and this group. I mean, we use zoning variances all the time for awful petty things.
I think though, with regard to this, Tom, it wouldn't be a zoning change because you're talking about a use difference, right? So I don't know if the developers would be able to go to the zoning board and ask for.
I was thinking of the siding
You're thinking
issue.
of standards, yeah. Siding.
Well, I think that's a
transparency.
change
I
that
think
we
we would
can make
eliminate that in
through it.
my
Yeah,
mind,
yeah,
right? Yeah, so we would.
So, okay, so I'm hearing that we should go through this and make changes, and then once we're done making the changes, reevaluate whether
It makes
how
sense.
it's presented. Yeah. Okay, one other follow-up general question I have. In this document, it appears to me that we are inserting our SOP, our standard operating procedures. And my question is, if we spend the time reviewing the SOP that's in here, can we take that SOP and distribute it across all of our process for the planning review?
It's already in place.
I think what you're trying to do here is take our current SOP and apply it to this.
Yeah.
I think that's what, this
That's-
document.
And I
is.
agree with you, but now I'm saying if we take the time
Yeah.
to review this SOP, would that then be our SOP for all of our planning review process? Or is it gonna be specific just to this?
I think we already have it.
They pretty much coincide.
Yeah, we have it. We have our SOP for plan review. I think what we're trying to do is apply
I
this
understand that.
to ours.
So now I'm saying if we take the time today
Yeah,
or in the future to review the SOP that's in here, can we take that SOP then and apply it to all of the project planning review process?
It's different.
you're going from here to there. I'm going from there to here.
Right. That's exactly right.
But it would be uniform.
But then it would be uniform.
Right.
And I think that's,
Then it would be
I think for
uniform.
staff's benefit to have a uniform process. Planning boards, and I'm sure the town board also, anybody that's involved in the review process, to have a standardized process. And, this current process is so laborious and,
It really is.
I mean, it's tough on staff, it's tough on applicants, it's tough on review agencies. So I think, again, come up with a standard SOP that applies
I
to
would
this.
agree with that.
Terry, you okay with that?
which I think was the direction you're going,
Which is what's happening, yeah.
from what I read in terms of your
Yeah, I
draft.
think we aligned it more, I think we did align it with,
There's things in
Yeah,
here
sketch
we don't
plan.
look at typically though, like exterior remodel of the
No,
building.
no, that's
facade.
standards. I'm just talking about the first section.
No, it's all what it's based on.
Mhm.
I mean, the review procedure is based on things like how much of the facade are you changing? What's the square footage of the expansion you're doing? What's the square footage of the new construction you're doing? How many, if you're doing residential, how many are you doing? There's different thresholds.
Those are criteria, those aren't procedures.
The procedures are based on those criteria.
Yes,
Yes.
That's right.
So
So-
they don't exist typically in our site plan review for non-form-based code projects. So do you want it to be? Because I think that's what you're suggesting.
no, I'm not, no,
Saying,
I-
figure out what we want to do here today and then apply it to everything else.
as far as the process goes.
Process is based on that.
And
That
not on
triggers
the criteria, the
process.
criteria would be
Criteria
specific
triggers
to
the
this.
process.
I couldn't hear you.
The criteria triggers
I
different
understand that.
processes.
Yeah.
So you are talking about criteria. And you're saying.
I'm talking about the process.
Yeah.
You're,
So, John, just to kind of clarify that, in a sense, are you saying like for this, new construction proposing 4 or more residential units is the only time it goes to plan? Are
no,
you saying?
that to me is a criteria.
That's a process.
We can argue semantics if you want to, but
Well, I think you have to.
I believe that's the criteria. It's saying, if you have this, you do that. I'm talking about the
Okay.
process. And we'll get to that.
Okay.
Go through here, but I just don't want to spend a whole lot of time on process. If in fact, we're not willing to use that process uniformly across the board for all projects.
Seems like a good opportunity to change it.
Yes.
If we're gonna change for one, we change for all.
We're
I
not
think so, right.
changing how a site plan goes to the planning, board. We're not changing how a sketch plan goes to the planning board.
Who said we're not?
This has not. proposed-
I want to change it. I want to change it and make it uniform for every project.
So do you want to talk about form-based code today or something else entirely?
We'll get to the process, don't worry. We'll get to the process and we'll point it out, okay? I disagree with you, but that's okay. You're talking about the criteria. If it's 5,000 feet and less, it's one process. If it's 5,000 feet or more, it's a completely different process. To me, that's a criteria.
Yeah, that's fine. All I'm saying is the draft that we came up with based on the discussions we've had so far, the actual process involved, once those criteria are determined,
That's right.
has not been proposed to be changed for form-based code.
But I'm saying it is outlined in here. And that process is outlined. And I think if we spend the time going through that process,
It's the same as what we already do.
okay, it's fine. Moving on.
Reviewed, administratively approved.
I guess the first thing that this addresses is item number I, which is on page number 7. And it said it wanted to remove this page in its entirety, and I could not find the new page that it wanted to replace it with.
Page 2 of the document I sent you, it's right here. I printed it this morning.
Plan thresholds.
Didn't change that much.
We made all the changes. we need to.
Sarah, I don't think the chart has changed that much, has it?
I recreated an entire new chart in Excel. I'd have to go back to my notes from.
Yeah,
before.
just looking at the old chart versus the
So
chart.
most of the changes that were talked about, and this was the day, John, when you were recreating the PDF into the Word document, and there was a lot of input about trying to make it so that the compliance thresholds wouldn't kick it into having to come into full compliance with form-based code just because they wanted to make some changes to the exterior or do an addition.
So to Sarah's point, I think the key change on that is the asterisks at the base of the chart, which is new.
Oh, okay.
It's sideways in the document, if you could roll that up.
It's because it didn't fit.
Yeah, you know, I get it, you know, I just, I can't know what to turn my head.
To read it, to read that asterisk, what it says is for expansion / remodel projects only. Only elements that are changing must come into or be in compliance with form-based code regulations. For example, only new signage or replacement signage is required to comply with form-based code, but not existing signage. Similarly, only landscaping that needs to be replaced as part of a remodel would need to comply, but existing landscaping does not need to come into compliance. In short, basically what that reads out as is similar to building code, right? Familiar with that? I know Paul's familiar with that. If you don't touch it, it remains. If you touch it though, then you have to come into compliance with the regulations. All
The
right,
way the table was before. The thresholds were so small, or it seemed like so minor that. You had to then change the other things too, you weren't messing with, nobody wanted that to happen.
So you did change some of the boxes that had X's in them.
Yeah, we tried to remove some,
But you're,
Based on-
sorry, what did you say?
removed some of them, you know,
Two
so.
Looks like you've added some.
I'm gonna have to go up and get my other document. I have the handwritten notes in my form-based code, but I didn't bring it.
So as an example, expansion of a building over 50% of a gross building square footage. The fourth box is not checked on this one, and it is checked. Excuse me, you're right.
the off-street.
Remove them.
And again, you gotta remember that that asterisk is there, right? So if you're not proposing an expansion on the front side, then you don't need to come into compliance with the setbacks on the front side,
Okay.
only the side that you're expanding. That was the one that really made it easier from a development standpoint to say, unless you're changing that, you don't need to change it. Whereas before, it would require the whole
There's
building.
a threshold that you would get to almost right away.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else we need to talk about with this one?
Unless there's questions.
Okay, next one then is K, which was
Just the whole-
nuances.
The whole document.
Yeah,
Okay,
this was
noise.
my staff that proposed this. This whole section had to do with decibel readings from outdoor event spaces, and it couldn't be over ABC. We don't regulate noise anywhere in the town of Canandaigua. So we proposed it to be a lot simpler. This way, it's just, these are the hours, as opposed to, it can't be more than 105.2 decibels or whatever it read. This is simpler to understand. Understanding still, you do need noise because it is mixed use. You will have a restaurant below residential.
And of course, this is a noise ordinance.
It is, but it's simpler, in the sense of. the
Right, no,
previous time you had
yeah,
decibels.
I don't disagree with it.
So. A good example of this is we learned from what the city had issue wise with the Canandaigua Hotel. And twisted around.
Right.
The back and forth public battle of noise. Well, this solves it. Here's your hours. Can't go past.
I
We
thought
okay
the
with
city
that?
had the
Yeah.
same thing.
Okay,
I can understand.
next thing then is
Okay, now we get into that.
section 2, development review process. Item number 1 is just a modification of B.
Shall to may.
Where it says it must schedule a pre-application. We change it to may. Anything else we need to talk about on this one?
Again, this is where we're trying to get this in line with what we currently do, current applications, and I think what staff is saying is that we don't go through all this for a typical application or something other than form-based, so why do we do it? Is it really needed all these pre-application conferences? And I agree.
So What are you suggesting, Chuck?
I'm suggesting that as written, that we change it to May and eliminate the other pre-applications in C and D.
See,
C and D.
Mhm.
Most of the major developments anyways will request a meeting with.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Hey, we don't wanna go too far without.
yeah,
So are you saying we eliminate C and D?
Suggested.
Yeah,
Wow. That's just all it's doing, clarifying one may happen if somebody requests the meeting, so what's the harm in just leaving it? You're right.
nothing too crazy.
I mean, it's not putting any,
It's almost a given, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
that's what-
Why are we
yeah,
even
this just
codifying
takes it out.
and it's just,
do we have to say it though?
it says active pre-application conference, but you may schedule.
if you didn't choose to schedule it, you wouldn't.
So
Yeah,
it's just kind of outlining to somebody so that they would not have to call and ask the question. What would happen if I may? Just leave it alone, because it doesn't, not affecting.
it doesn't change the context.
And hopefully if they called and had a question, someone would say, maybe we need a little conference on this, you know?
I don't
Either
know,
way.
I'm just trying to simplify it.
Yeah.
We'll leave it in.
I don't think you need it.
Yeah, I don't think we need it either.
Don't need it, but is it okay to leave it in?
Sure, I mean,
Sure.
it doesn't.
You okay, Tom?
It's up to you guys.
Okay.
More ink. More ink.
I just put the question because it's not required anymore, so
It's
right,
a given.
you spell
You're
out
gonna
what
do
you're
that.
gonna do then.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
You prefer to take it out.
We don't need. so
Yeah, I
many
agree with
words.
you. I mean,
It's a given, it's 52.
right,
So you want to take it out? I'm okay with taking it out.
I'm okay with taking it out.
Take it out.
Take it out. Okay. C and D are removed.
Next we'll say you come in the front door and then you
Yeah.
turn a little left. Come on, you down the hallway.
Next remodel, you go to code change.
All right, moving right along.
Okay. The administrative approvals, part D.
Leave it, okay.
Here, this one we took, we actually, you gotta jump ahead to see what we did here. We eliminated number 3 altogether. And then took the I for the 3A 1 and 2 and moved it under administrative approvals. The new construction or building expansion encompassing 5 square feet or less. And the new construction or building expansion is proposing 3 or fewer dwelling units. That went to administrative approvals, and application for planning board review was completely removed.
Okay, so looking at 2A as written in this document. My first question is 2A, do we do that for all projects?
Administrative approvals?
Yes,
No,
can we? Should we?
No,
no, you're suggesting, so administrative approvals means there's no planning board involved.
Okay,
so in a sense, yes, we already do that for it. Because we don't require site plan and planning board approval for that, and my office still looks at zoning to make sure it's there. This is adding another step where Sarah's staff will be issuing an administrative approval, saying all of this meets form-based code, and then sends it over to my group saying, you're good to go, issue permits.
Streamlining it.
And removing site plan from some things.
so this streamlines the process.
Yeah, so section 2 is defining.
What she looks at.
Is listing and explaining all the types of projects that would fall under an administrative review. So section 2A and B describe the sorts of things that would only be handled in the office administratively, and then they go to get a building permit. They don't need to go to the planning board,
So-
PRC,
so-
or any of that.
6,000 square feet goes to the planning board.
Correct.
5,001 goes to the. planning board.
Right, right.
So. I have to ask my question again. Only for the form-based code area, or should it be for all of our projects?
This is form-based code we're talking about.
I understand, but this is now getting into the process.
I think let's stay on topic. That's what we do.
It's off topic, but I would like to make it a uniform so that it's the same no matter where you're form-based code or anything else.
Me also.
Right, right.
So
So we can, if we're doing that later, we can do that later, but
What do we do? In non-form based code or?
So anything that's a new, like, say a new house automatically goes to planning. For a form-based code, if you're proposing a single-family home, it does not go to planning, it just goes to staff.
And commercial, any commercial project goes to the planning board,
We haven't crossed that bridge yet,
regardless of size.
or adults and new single family home through the planning board.
So yeah,
So
same,
I don't think you can make that decision.
does staff have the ability to say, hey, I want this to go to the planning board?
No, it's based on Trump. There's a specific section of code that says following items go to the planning board for planning board review. There's some other more complicated triggers, like when it's near the lake, there's other triggers that will go
Right.
to the planning board automatically, like how much land you disturb, what you do within 500 feet of the lake. So there's other triggers, but no, we don't decide. It's all written.
and for form-based code specifically, that in the conversation, the reason for that is it makes the development process quicker,
Yeah.
easier,
This is
cheaper.
more
and
relaxed.
why don't we want to do that in other areas of the town?
I agree with you full-heartedly. I just don't think this is the time for the discussion. I think that will be another ordinance meeting.
Form-based code to- That's what we're talking about.
That's it, and then apply it to the.
There may be
rest.
other issues that are intended to that. You wanna set that up for another meeting, I would do it that way.
We got a job for life
Okay.
here.
So we modify the process for the form-based code,
Form-based code, then
and then we can consider.
eventually come back, if that's a topic people wanna take up.
Okay, agreed. So we are on 2A and B. Any issues with that?
It works for staff. They're the guys in the trenches.
So we're gonna delete B, right?
We're replacing 2A and 2B with the document that was distributed that has new language for 2A and 2B.
And then it takes, so it's got the current code up there. It takes items from number 3. away. Takes items from under number 3. Some items that in the current form-based code, it's required to go to the planning board. It takes those and puts them under administrative review based on suggestions from this group. So it's not eliminating planning board, but it's taking some of the simpler items and putting them under administrative so they don't have to go to the planning. And then it's taking the things that originally the form-based code required planning board and town board and eliminating town board, and those just go to the planning, board, which is more in line with what we do.
Yeah. So eventually three went away. But 3 turned into 4, so, because it got rid of town board review, it's the same language, and we just moved 3A, 1 and 2, just the 1 and 2 down into administrative
Into-
approvals.
I have my notes from the day we talked about it, so I'm following along to make sure that it makes sense based on what you guys wanted.
And by doing that, it takes away that back and forth that we got into. Which is one thing, if nothing else, we eliminate here, the back and forth between the planning board, town board, back to planning board.
Speeds it up.
The easiest way to describe that, it removes 2 months from the process.
At least, yeah. So,
We good?
here.
Okay, moving on to B, administrative approvals.
Sarah, I guess this chart will have to change.
Yeah, the chart,
Flow chart will have to
the
change.
chart on the next page changes as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, I just didn't have time to.
Okay,
try
that-
and create
Let
that.
me,
Wait till we settle and then you can do it, yeah, okay. All right, John, go ahead, administrative approvals.
All right. Any comments relative to application submittal?
Yeah, so as a reminder, the big A is like, here's what goes where. B spells it out. So that's where you are now, is it spells out the administrative.
Okay, application review.
Submittal. Sketch plan.
So
Or this thing.
I have a question relative to application review. Item number 1B. So if it does not conform to the form-based code and is denied, then the ball's in the applicant's park, correct?
Yeah, they can request a variance or change their project, it's up to them.
It's up to them, right, at that point? Okay, good.
And we obviously would we would make sure they knew what their options were.
Yep. Okay, now, item 1A. Approved is maybe the wrong word, but I want to test that. If item 1A, if you think all the project conforms, do you issue a building permit then?
No, it's,
Apply for a building permit.
yeah,
Well, so approved would be misinterpreted.
I don't think so. That's the same language we have currently, the planning board approval. Maybe we could change it to a zoning approval.
If I'm reading this and I'm an applicant and it says, if my project conforms to the form-based code, it's approved.
Maybe we could add something that says it's approved and can move on to the building permit process.
That would be fine.
Just to
Proceeds.
clarify.
Zoning
Or
approval.
don't even say it's approved, just say can move on to the rest of the review process. Will be allowed,
It says approvals in.
will be allowed to move forward into the rest of the review process or something?
We'll wordsmith it. I don't wanna,
You understand my
I
point?
do, yeah, I gotta. Think about it.
Okay,
You guys understand what it means.
but I'm concerned that the customer is not gonna understand what it means.
A lot of them don't understand it now with planning board approvals, so I get what you're saying, I do.
Right,
I just- that's why I gotta.
I mean, I'm
wordsmith it.
approved at that point if I meet all the criteria, but in fact, you're not saying I'm approved, you're saying I'm okay to go on to the next step in the process.
It's complete, yeah. Not approved.
Okay. If the zoning officer looks at this and determines that everything is in conformance with the form-based code regulations,
See,
why is there a need for a review committee?
no, he's just confirming it's complete, right? He's not confirming, he's not approving it.
He's not approving it. He's saying it meets
The
all of
application is
the,
complete.
it meets all the criteria for the code. So if it meets all of the design criteria for the code, why does it have to go to
So
PRC?
the PRC is to get it to the referrals. So that's the true point of PRC. PRC also determines it's complete. But PRC will send it off to, again, single family house, simplest one. The water department, the sewer department, my office, DOT if needed. That's where PRC goes through. And then they'll take those reviews and their referrals and they'll send them back to the zone.
The completeness of the application is just that every bit of information has been assembled.
Mm.
Whether that information is compliant, that's not the decision at that point. Is it?
No,
No,
no.
At which point? At point B1?
It's just that, like you got an application, you got 20 items.
Yeah.
They just say, yep, all 20, we have the information. Now we take a look at it. Which is going from one step to the next step. Completeness of the application doesn't mean that it meets everything and there's no questions about project. It's
Well,
just,
I,
it's complete, right?
that's what I'm, that's
Yeah.
what,
Yeah, that word approved is.
but I'm
reason-
concerned about that, Terry, because B11A, where it says application review. The
It's complete.
the
The application.
The zoning officer is determining that the project conforms to the form-based
Oh,
code.
that kind of,
If he's not, if that person is not determining that, if that person is determining that it conforms, my question is, why does PRC need to review it?
For the referrals.
The
Well,
Remember, well,
Mm,
so they're only
okay.
going to PRC, you gotta look at 2A1.
2A1,
Yep, so administrative review by project review committee. Development applications for the following project types: building expansions encompassing 5,000 square feet or less, new construction encompassing 5,000 square feet or less, new construction or building expansions proposing 3 or fewer dwelling units. At minimum, the following components and the zoning officer may require additional materials. So these are those new constructions. If it doesn't go to PRC, then staff, we've got to redevelop our whole process for approvals. Because PRC is where we send everything off for referrals. So that's the process. The zoning officer is merely, they will determine, yes, it meets zoning, but they can't do that until they get everything back from those referrals.
And I think I see too, John, it threw me for a second too, but the administrative approvals, there's different types. One is the zoning officer. 2 is TRC. So, and if you read the first section under 1AI, those types get to be reviewed by the zoning officer. 2AI, those types go through PRC. So it's not necessarily you do one first and then 2. 1 is one process, 2 is a separate process,
And-
based on the description, based on the criteria
okay,
in the
so
first paragraph.
that being said, Sarah,
So what, step 2 doesn't follow step 1, they're completely separate.
And I
For a
understand that.
second, I didn't get that, I couldn't remember.
okay, so if that's true, that if it's less than 5,000 square foot and the zoning officer determines that it's meeting all of the criteria, then what? Then does it go to the PRC for distribution
For
of the
building
information?
expansion, yes,
Or at that point, can it go to a building permit?
no, it goes to PRC by this process.
Yeah, everything in 2AI goes to PRC, everything in 1AI doesn't have to. It can just be done in office with the zoning inspectors.
Well, you're confusing me here. I got the one, we're under administrative review by the zoning officer, right?
That's number 1.
So if it gets to BI1A, what happens to it then?
I'm not following where you are.
Are you?
Under
Under application
review.
review.
Okay, so
So 1A, if it's approved, what happens to it?
it's done, it goes to get a building permit.
Okay,
It does not go to PRC.
okay,
Unless it meets those criteria that
No,
are set up.
it's already, okay, big B, number 1, AI. These projects are reviewed in my office with my staff. Big B 2, AI, these projects go to PRC.
if that's the process, I'm comfortable with it, but it needs to be a little more clear that
Yeah.
if the application review I1A,
Under.
under application
number
review,
1, right?
under
Number 1,
the.
Yeah, I believe it is
application-
under number
Yeah,
1.
application review here, Sarah, is paragraph B,
yeah, B under. heading
Yes.
1, Yes,
so BI1A,
they go to the building permit if the application is determined to,
so then it is approved.
yes,
At that point, the project is approved.
it still needs building permit, but yes.
Okay, so the approved is okay. Are we all in agreement with that? Mike, you're sitting there looking with a.
Yeah, I'm so confused right now, I'm sorry. There's a lot of twos and Bs and I need a whiteboard to.
So
put
if you
all
go to
this on.
application review, I mean, it kind of says it right there, if this, then this. So if the only thing I would say, what is completeness of the application? That all the boxes are filled out,
Did they fill it out? Did they provide all the documents?
and then that's reviewed by the zoning officer, and if it's
If it's
considered,
one of the projects that falls under.
right, that's how, yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about that, yeah. So then it would be viewed and issued a building permit, I mean, they'd apply for building,
Well,
permit,
they have to
whatever,
apply.
yeah,
Because what's required for a building permit is not the same as what's
Right.
required to make sure that it meets
Right.
form based.
but it sounds like they moved the step right away.
I'm
So,
okay
yeah.
with this. I mean, if,
Yeah, I'm okay with it too.
They PRC from some of these
Right.
projects, and this is based on what you guys wanted, so.
yeah, so in other words, if everything, it comes in, it's less than 5,000 feet,
No, look at one.
It's all those criteria.
all those criteria.
Up to 50%.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
Site improvements that don't change the number of parking surfaces or parking spaces, expansion of parking lots up to 10% larger than what they already have, utility system improvements.
right.
et cetera. Those items, they don't need PRC at all. They can just come in, hey, do you meet form-based code? Yes or no? Yes, okay, go get a building permit.
Okay, good. And that's
No,
what,
okay, can you change it? Can you fix it?
so then application review, the correct word is approved. It's approved and can go to a building.
Put a shovel in the ground after they get the permit.
Okay,
Doesn't say
The
that.
building.
Yeah, after they
Add
get,
to the-
after they get the building permit.
Doesn't say.
can say rather than approved, building permit can be issued.
Well, I think you want to know at that point that. I'm still living with Mike on the 2815, so.
Yeah, no, I need a whiteboard.
there's a
A
little.
lot of numbers going around.
I'm an old guy, you gotta give me a little bandwidth.
I think that's why the document has the flow charts
How
now.
we have wording in E code too.
It's
I
the
mean, it
flow.
kind of.
Yeah, it's the flow,
It's
and
the
they know
legal
what they're doing.
language.
So how can we help, Terry? What can we,
Well, I understand this conversation. It should. I'm trying to-
Where it is.
That and this don't. This has got to be reworded to
yes,
indicate that, okay, you're done,
you're done,
go apply for the building permit.
correct.
So my notes say. Administratively determine that the project conforms to the form-based code district regulations and is approved. And then my notes say add something like, and can then move on to the building permit process.
Yes.
Something like that,
Yes, agreed.
to clarify that you're done with the zoning review, but you still need to go through code enforcement.
Sarah, can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Promise you're not gonna throw something at me.
Maybe just this book.
Underneath the administrative approvals and all of that, like the section 2 on page 3, starting on page 3. Could we break that out into 3 sections? So you have administrative approval by zoning officer and then administrative approval by PRC so that it mirrors the next section, which is the process.
Page 3 in the notes.
Yep. We're not adding planning board, not adding anything else. It just mirrors that section B that says still an administrative approval, here's the process. So for instance, 2 could be administrative approvals by the zoning officer for A, and then 2B could be administrative approval by the project.
Yeah, just change that heading.
Yep, that way it just makes it clear when you go on to John Terry's point of the next page. It follows the same guideline as far as the writing. I think what you guys see, I'll make.
So you're recommending anything that does not go to the planning board, that meets these criteria, still has to come to PRC.
For the referral process.
We don't do that now. I don't think, anything we see at PRC is a application that is destined for the planning board.
Yeah, and some of that is being proposed to be changed to other stuff too.
So a PRC review could involve something of less than 5,000 square feet, less than 3 dwelling units, whatever it is.
If they hit one of the other triggers, you mean.
Okay, so that's something new.
It's something new because, but it's not, these PRC, we already send stuff out for referrals. And that's really the main point, is to send everything out to the referral
So you
agencies.
wanna make sure, agencies, referral agencies see this?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Because instead of reinventing the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
we have that wheel, let's just take it, modify it, and make it work for staff.
Longer PRC meetings.
Things when that comes in.
Yep, not that we get a lot of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay. 2AI. That's the administrative review by the project review committee. That first paragraph, I. All it does is say those projects.
Yep.
May require additional materials. Is that what you really want to say?
They have to go to PRC and they
Doesn't say that.
It does.
administrative review by
Heading
202.
It only does in the heading, that paragraph I only says that they may require additional materials.
Because-
The application submittal.
Yeah, that's just referring to what documents need to be submitted for the application.
I think
So I mean, it's
in
an
B,
outline, right?
in
So
B it catches
it's
it,
not
Joe.
gonna restate the heading every time we get into the drop downs.
Don't you want to say something like for that paragraph I, that those types of projects will require the following?
That's B. Once the development application
For
receives.
submittal documents, Sean?
I'm under
Yeah, no, I'm asking.
application submittal.
Yep.
Paragraph I.
Yes,
All it says is they may require additional materials. Don't we want to say something like will require PRC review or will require
that's.
to review the
in-
following
Says
process?
PRC review in the heading.
It's in the heading.
It's automatic.
Yes.
But it happens in B. Once, if you turn the page down and look at B, once the development application receives, then it will determine the completeness, then he will determine whether it goes to PRC. And it's reviewed by PRC. I think A is just the materials required. If a certain material is not provided, it has to be submitted, and before it goes to PRC, that the application has to be considered complete, and then it goes to PRC.
I still think paragraph I, 2AI should say something like will require the following information or submittals, as opposed to you're concluding that whole paragraph with may require additional materials as needed.
Yeah, and then it says a site
But
plan.
if you're following the components.
That would
And
be
the zoning
acceptable.
officer might require addition.
I agree with that.
That's what it says.
Yeah, and then it goes on to list a site plan, plan should include existing proposed subdivision of streets.
Oh, I'm sorry,
easements.
yes.
This is what's
Accompanying
minimally
I
required.
apologize. Yes,
We like to say it might require additional because I like
Yes.
to put that in writing, because people say, well, I didn't know I was gonna need to give you more.
yeah, I agree.
But it's at the discretion of the zoning officer if we need more information to be able to determine certain things.
Yep. So paragraph B, application review.
Now it's going to PRC.
Yeah, so all the submittal documents have gone to the zoning officer, the zoning officer says it's complete, send it. and schedule it for
PRC
PRC.
will refer it.
Yes.
Okay,
So Murph, what would be the timeline? Because the next step would be a building permit, assuming the referrals come back
Mhm.
positive. So what do you give them before you issue the permit?
Right now, we're at 3 to 4 weeks, I don't know what we're gonna be at.
Well, our referral letters, do they have a timeline as to when we want responses? Trying to remember. I never see the referral letters, so,
When we refer it,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, we ask them, turn it in. I mean, we're using cloud permanent now, so we don't send them.
Usually right now, if it's a planning board action, by the time it comes up on the agenda, if we haven't heard from them, we go without.
Right, I mean, we can't make them give us. a
No.
copy.
Right. In
And
terms of
for these, they're,
building permit.
yeah, for these, they're smaller, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, if I don't hear back from county sewer and I need county sewer's comments, I'm gonna have to call Jack Braun and be like,
Yeah.
Jack, what are you doing? You know, I don't per se need it entirely.
Okay, all right.
So,
Yeah, and Chuck, when we issue the report, when Kim issues the review and file permit, there is a date written there. We would like them to give us an
Okay.
answer by, but yes, we can't. Sometimes they just don't.
And these letters would have the also, so.
yeah, and
All right.
referrals I need are more handled.
Thank you.
So paragraph B, application review, going down to 1A. I guess, 2 I's. Goes back to the zoning officer for action, doesn't it, as opposed to a decision? The decision was made by the PRC, wasn't it?
No, because
PRC
PRC
can
can't
defer
make a
it.
decision. It has to go to a person.
So if the PRC deems it satisfactory,
The zoning officer is still the one that deems it sufficient and approved, as you would say.
okay,
It has to be tied to a person.
okay,
Similarly, like planning board is actually a really good example. Planning board may approve it, but the plans aren't actually approved until Chuck's.
okay, so if going on now to 2A, if the PRC deemed it satisfactory, the zoning officer makes his decision that it project conforms to the form-based code and regulations and is approved, it can go to a building permit at that point. And is approved for building permit, right?
That's where I gotta wordsmith that.
Yep, but that in theory is
Yeah,
what we're
correct.
saying.
Yep,
Is the issue a ZLD?
that's probably what it'll end
Yeah.
up saying.
You get
The
it
issue is a
positive
positive
DLD
DLD,
and then
or,
you issue a building.
yeah, issues a zoning permit,
Okay.
we'll figure something out.
And then if we go to B, 2B, again, it's back in the customer's hands, right? For lack of a better word.
Correct.
Right?
Put it back on them.
You should put it back on now. Okay. I think that's a good place to stop. We're at 10:30.
Just to, I think it needs to say things like that, John. You know.
Pardon me?
It needs to say that. So that somebody reading it
Yes,
has, you know, the full picture.
yes, agreed.
So when you wordsmith, where the building permit could be issued.
Yep.
Based on, you know, just for clarity's sake.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
kind
if
of
you're
going
done.
back to our process in Geneva, where I was previously, it was zoning. You got a zoning permit, and all it said on there was, this project has approved, conforms with zoning, and then it had a subheading. Follow the building department's process for actual building approval.
This is a good place to stop.
Sure is.
Anyone have any other comments before we break?
Do we have any other topics that are hot right now? Is it?
Well, that was the one Mike brought up this morning.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot
okay,
of
well, that one, that's, yeah.
This seems pretty hot.
No, I'm just saying anything that else.
Yeah, the
Pretty
next,
slow.
the next biggest one, which when this is done, staff really needs to, and this is coming from my team, is chargebacks. We
Yes.
really need to figure that out because, and I'm saying it's for my team and it's selfish. My team doesn't really do chargebacks. We do a lot of the reviews in-house. But we get stuck with all the pressure from the applicants and the developers when they're getting bills from 3 months ago for 10 grand, 5 grand, and we're the people they see. So we gotta figure that out. I see Paul's laughing because Paul knows that the process is not great. It needs
Yeah.
revision.
I'd like, to, yeah, we'd like to. discuss
Okay.
it.
I think,
I can tell you, folks, as a developer, we are continually seeing chargebacks exceed what I pay in design service and fees for my initial contract with my design profession. And, it's costs, right? And all of that. We're doing a preview phase 2, right, an affordable project with a finite amount of money. We get all those approvals and those budgets up front. And we hired BME, very reputable, and, now knock on your town engineer, MRB, but they think about the project, they send you a bill, you send it to me and I gotta pay. And we're ending up spending more on MRB's oversight than we are on our upfront design costs, which is absurd.
How do we change that?
So I can speak for my, yeah, I can speak for my side is we've taken a lot of that under staff. Paul can speak to, for years, we would send MRB out and MRB would do SWIP inspections. It's great. I love having Colin go out and do engineering reviews and stuff. There's a time and a place for it. You know, if we're getting positive inspection reports back from the developers who are required to do their own inspections, we don't need to. So that's why we have now a stormwater inspector that handles that. And that's where I think we can go through more. Similarly with PRC, not requiring everything to go to PRC where it's getting an engineering review. I know Sarah's team's working hard on making sure that MRB is not reviewing everything.
Right, we tell MRB not to come until we're done reviewing all the projects that we won't need them for now. We didn't used to do that.
So
So some of it's help, but, you know, I mean, we do send projects to MRB to review. Every time that happens, it's generating a bill.
And that's where, to John's point of what goes to planning board, how many meetings does it go to? All of those add costs onto the project that we can't as staff do.
And not only hard cost from like MRB, but it's incurring a lot of staff time and a lot of volunteer time and a lot of board time. It's just, I mean, a lot of time, people's time. The more complicated the process, obviously, the more time is spent.
And that's, I hate to put it back on, but the idea of single family homes going to planning board should go hand in hand with this chargeback issue, because that's a big key player. You know, if you're having a home that has no need for variances, no need for engineering review, but it's getting a bill for $250 because MRB wrote up the resolution,
Right.
that still is a cost that they're not expecting. And I was hoping Jared would be here for this part of the discussion. I've been telling everyone to send Jared an email. So I don't know how many he's gotten, but it's at least 10 to 15 people on my side in the last month and a half that I've been saying.
That's really all I'm
send
looking
emails.
to when people complain. I explain our process, I explain why my hands are tied, like, this is the process. I am just passing it through. Here's why it happens, here's how it happens, here's how it's decided, but ultimately, that's what it says in our code, and that's how we do it. And unless the town board wants to pay those charges, that's what we're left with, unless we don't do the charges in the first
Well-
place. So that's the question, right? Do we?
I mean, from an operational standpoint, the easiest solution is to have an engineer on staff, increase fees slightly. That is less burdensome on the developers, but also is enough to help cover the cost of an additional staff member.
What we can
Because
do-
in the end, if we're paying chargeback fees anyway, we're paying what we'd be paying to have somebody on staff to,
Well, and what we can do
cover
is we
most of
can
that.
reduce what MRB does to a point. But like, yeah. we
requires
have an
additional
engineer-
staff on our
If we
end.
need an engineer review, it's gonna end up in MRB. We've had different people suggest different solutions. I had someone say, well, what if you did it like your sureties, have an estimate, have an amount we pay up front, at least we can know about it that way, and then it's either the same, or does the town eat the cost if it's more, do they get a refund if it's less? So, I mean, there's been different solutions suggested, we've talked about different ways you could do it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I said, well, you know, let the town board know how you feel. I don't know how much has made it to you guys, but.
You might be right. I mean, maybe
You
it's
know?
more cost effective for the end users as well as ourselves.
But it's gotta be net zero though, in my mind.
At least net zero.
Right, at least net zero,
At least
right, we
net
can't hire someone to do this and incur that cost.
I don't think you can hire one guy that has that breadth of experience.
No, you're not gonna get
I
it.
don't
But we
know
could
if
still
can hire
refer stuff
anybody.
out to MRB that,
Well, I
Didn't
think
be
we need
crazy.
to look at what we do send for them.
yeah,
Got that, that's.
Let's remember though, too, the costs that we have, that we pay to MRB for certain things that we would be able to do ourselves as well with an in-house engineer. So,
I mean, those $200,000 a month months would go away.
I'm not saying that much, but we need a lot more staff to do everything that MRV does for us, but.
Well, it's hard to justify their costs. You know, I don't think that we, the residents of the town, should eat the cost.
No, I absolutely not,
If
right,
somebody decides to build something, the cost
Yeah.
is on them,
right.
not on me, so.
But I don't wanna
But there's
supply
gotta be
developers
some-
with stuff, like all of a sudden
No.
you get a $20,000 bill that you didn't have any idea was gonna be there, so.
Maybe
Maybe
you
something
tell
like
them
you're
I'm
saying
dealing
is to upfront,
Well,
you
that
know,
doesn't-
Well, you told me give them this, so many dollars per year to do this, there's gotta be another scheme. Cause those numbers, I review the bills every month, I look at MRP especially. We get a whole page of A380. And they're, you know, they range in, you know, a couple $100 up to $1,000.
But I think the other,
Huge amounts of dollars.
and the other part that we are missing here though, separate from the developers, just the general citizen who comes in to do, that has to go on PC, they also get chargebacks. So it does, personal step is also a benefit to the public as a whole. Because then they don't come in and all of a sudden they're smacked with a chargeback that costs more than their application fee or their permit or whatever it is. Cause that's the same thing that we're dealing with that as well with just the regular citizen who we've got lots of backlog chargebacks. People who, and they get pretty angry when they realize they gotta pay an additional cost because they were in PRC for, you know,
Yeah.
10 minutes and they're getting charged by the, you know, MRB or just for being there, not even that they're having to review.
Well,
Their
we
stuff.
don't do that anymore.
Oh, that's good.
It used to be that MRB came to PRC started at 9 and it went until it ended. But now we've scheduled it so that we, ahead of time, we say, okay, well, these 5 projects are never gonna need any sort of MRB review. And the rest are, so we schedule it with an arrival time and I tell MRB, don't come until 10:30. Because the projects we're looking at before don't need you. So now, if they get a charge from MRB, it's because MRB reviewed their project, but it's still.
I think you need to talk to MRB also and say, look, we're getting a lot of pushback from people. What do you guys think? How can you trim your costs?
They only review projects when we ask them to.
And that's where the
Well,
code will have to change to do that.
Within that, you know, the hourly, you know, they got that scheduled. Senior engineer gets so much, you know,
Yeah.
what can they do to trim that? What can they do
Yeah,
to?
we
Give it
have
to
those
interns.
conversations. Lance is fully aware and he tries to cut costs for the residents wherever he can. He takes the most junior person on staff to do the simplest items. He
Oh, yeah.
only, you know, I mean, he is aware, you know,
Well,
he's been with
Lance
us
is-
long enough, he knows.
Lance isn't the one to talk to. Brian is, so. You go right to the top, say, look, these things are eating us up. We got people beating at us all the time, you gotta do something. You are our engineer. And I assume that you'd like to stay being our engineer. You don't have to threaten, but it's just. There are other companies out there, BME is excellent, they do a good job too. They're not as versatile as MRB, in my opinion, from my experience, but hey. There are other companies out there.
John, the only other thing, just for the board or committee's attention is New York State Code was officially voted on and approved 2 Fridays ago now. So you will see our chapter 92 that we just updated, come back.
Relative to
Sometime-
what, Mike?
The New York State uniform. So we'll have to go through, change some stuff in that to make it state compliant. You'll see that sometime before December. The new code goes into effect December 31st, so we'll get it on sometime before then for initial reviews. So.
Okay, next meeting is September 8th. Can't believe I'm saying September already. And with that, we will
live in the
adjourn.
future.
Thank you, everyone.
Can I just give the 3 of you just a quick update on staff?
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be executive